we start with a war. Western Botswana and southwestern Botswana have had tensions for a while now, and for the most part it was stable. That was until the Western and Botswanan ally, the NSA, decided to invade this part of northern Botswana. Southwestern Botswana didn't like that Western Botswana was okay with the annexation and decided to declare war. Of course, a few contributors must be known. And the first one is that the NSA supports Western Botswana. But on the contrary, we see Northern Botswana support the southwestern Botswanans with weapons and equipment being sent to both these nations. They have geared up enough to start the war. Our first front line takes place over here. Southwestern Botswana pushes us into this area, while in return Western Botswana pushes its troops over the border. Quickly we see southwestern Botswana, or SW, but I'm just called this WSB. We see WSB start to push further and further into WB, or Western Botswana. But while they were doing that and concentrating on one front, they left most of their other front open, causing a massive, and I mean a massive gap in their defensive lines. This was quickly exploited and used against the WSB by the WB. Quickly, it was seen that WB might win this war if an external power wouldn't invade. And who guessed it? That we have someone who will intervene in this war. We see, I don't know what nation this is, so I'm just gonna say this state. This state has started a few skirmishes with WSB before, so tensions were always high. But this war has given a casus belli to this nation, and it is to help liberate WSB. And this includes also annexing a few parts of it for themselves. As this nation starts to continue its move through WSB, we see the northern forces push out WSB from the WB. WB then starts to push into WSB very, very harshly, and eventually it creates a double encirclement. Troops are allowed to go through southern Botswana by southern Botswana, and that is to only southwestern Botswana. Unfortunately, everyone in this pocket is killed, while most of the people in this pocket manage to survive. Seeing the disaster on all fronts, WSB decides to surrender. We'll see what the peace treaty intends to show us. Wait, I'm gonna have to do a bit. First, this nation gains a bit of land towards this area and this area. They do want these areas as they see them as theirs, and over here they also gain only a bit of land. While the rest of WSB is fully annexed into WLB. Now just WLB, or the Western Coalition, you can say, if you want. Basically, the Western Botswana Coalition, as I see, it's a fitting name actually. The Western Botswana Coalition has now gained a lot new land, and the NSA now has a powerful ally. These two begin to work on a way to cover up the rest of Botswana, but not before making a new ally, and that is this nation with the panel. Basically, in return for this alliance, this nation gains military access into both these countries and a small say in what their internal politics are, which you can guess isn't that good of a deal. While over here, Uganda has a civil war. We see the Ugandan people split into multiple groups, deciding to get away from their, not get away, but leave their nation for good by declaring their own independence. We have the smaller groups over here that are mostly different in their own ways. Such as this nation, it is a fascist nation. It that wanted to support the fascists in Spain, who have recently gone out and taken over 2 of their bordering nations, as well as the terrorists. But as the government started to crack down on them, more and more weapons were given to them by the Congo to use against the nation. This nation is a unist and would like to unify with this nation. While this here is a communist party that decided to garner enough support to start a revolution. The revolution is pointed towards uniting the entire nation under communism. Our first look is to this front over here, where Ugandan forces start to push over the border over here. There were already a few forces that remained loyal in the civil war. The split of communist Uganda from normal Uganda. And in the north we see 2 pushes. One towards this unist country, and another towards a more unconventional nation, and this is the fascists, terrorist supporting fascists, who have basically managed to control this amount of land. Forces have also in the south managed to cut off communist Uganda, but naval forces managed to save all of the communist Ugandan forces. Over here we see pushes made towards what is presumed to be the capital of the communist Uganda, which is actually not. The capital is all the way over here in the center. Ugandan troops start to also push in the center, trying to confuse and outmatch and also outfront the communist Ugandan forces. Unfortunately, this does not work at all. While in the north, we do see a small victory for the Blues. They managed to not take over all of fascist Uganda, but they do manage to make a breakthrough, taking a lot of new lands and gaining full superiority over the skies. Yes, Uganda has an air force. This happened when they were in the war against Somalia and this nation. They lost against this nation, but Somalia won, and this nation was forced to give over a lot of money in reparations. And that just contributed to Uganda using a lot of its money to do very many questionable things, and it just kinda wanted to buy a few things from, Uncle Sam. Also, there's a small thing that has happened over here. After communist Ugandan forces were trapped in this pocket, new forces that had arrived to relieve this front started to push out any non-communist Ugandan forces. They managed to push quite far into these parts of Uganda, trying not to, kill innocents, as people in villages live around these areas. Most notably, a village called, not a village, I don't know where the villages are, or what they're named in Uganda, but I presume there's a few villages around here in Uganda. So a villager over here decided to support the non-communists, and after the retake it was burned down and made into a enemy concentration camp, which was at some point relieved, but we will see that later. Over here we see two victories being scored with massive troops from, after the green Ugandans, the green team surrendered, we see the purple team having a slip up in the defensive organization and, intelligence, as they do manage to hold on after that slip, but just barely. We also see communist Uganda make a large push towards this area over here, a wider supply route, as it goes through here, goes from here to here, which supplies this area. But due to their lack of support, because their supply routes don't go right there, they take a large detour, and there is no road connecting them to this part. So yeah, but as the red team pushed in to the blue team's occupied areas, they are pushed out. Again, over here another offensive is made that now cuts off and retakes this area. Communist, the red team troops in the concentration camp over here have been liberated, while over here this front falls for the blue team. And the blue team, for the first time in this civil war, has been invaded back by the red team, who now holds a significant part of, not significant, but it's noticeable over in the north we do see the purple team fall. Occupation forces from both of these areas are gathered, distributed, and those who are left are sent to defend these parts of the front against the Reds. A small counterattack is made, but it doesn't do much, as another counterattack pushes the Red team into this small area. They do hold on to the gains though. But over in the front over here, what has happened is that due to many logistical and organizational problems during regrouping and distribution of supplies and general management of the supplies, it has appeared that these people who were driving the logistics chain have supposedly done an oopsie and caused the entire front over here to collapse. The blue team's forces start to push further and further into the red team, and due to new forces that were arriving and were exhausted, surrendering, it is quickly seen that the red capital is located, and it is promptly taken within a few weeks. With the capital having fallen, it is basically almost over for the red team, as they do not have that many forces left. Their people are divided into two parts, and the blue team just sees more success. But this has been a bit too good for the blues, hasn't it? Well, that's just been because it's been at the cost of their own people. A quick uprising in these both areas decides to unify into one big entity that then push out every single blue team troop occupier and start a campaign to link up their respective exclaves. Now that these cyan parts are linked up, sorry, I'm having a lot of stress for talking. The cyan team manages to push forces over the border, which Uganda didn't see as possible, as it just got news that these guys were rebelling again, and this time they have pushed into Uganda itself. So a lot of troops were diverted, and red troops started to regain a lot of land, eventually almost retaking their capital, but that is stopped and driven into another part of the front over here, which is used to cut off the blue team. But unfortunately, blue team operations over here had already capitulated this pocket, and eventually red team forces were put into one pocket and destroyed. The blue team managed to also take out the incursion over here, but they did not manage to gain much in return for that. They did gain a few more kilometers of land, maybe made a few strategic moves, but overall their efforts just stalled. Their logistics companies are having a hell of a time trying to get into over here, from like here all the way into this area, and distribute supplies. But over in the north, their campaigns against the Reds have gone basically without much going on for these guys over here, but in the north these mean a lot, because if the red falls, that means a lot of the cyan team troops are going to be killed or tortured after the war ends, and the cyans are, well, taken. So what the cyan team does is they push out in the spearheads in the multiple directions, trying to confuse and overwhelm the blue forces. Blue forces manage to stop these spearheads before they can reach the targets, which are some military bases, but only one of these managed just to actually reach its target, which was a military base right there. Quickly, for these cyan team forces, or aqua is I think a better term, aqua team forces managed to push quite far into this area and cut off two massive divisions, armies of Uganda. That one of them fell and the other gave up, and due to this massive gap being in the way, it was bound to be exploited for a lot of land. And now we have the Cyans just deciding to finally push into their little captured area, and they managed to actually take it to their own supplies. And at this point, the war isn't going as the Blues wanted it to, as Red forces managed to retake a lot of the land, eventually pushing into many parts that were forgotten or just irrelevant to the war, or were already being destroyed. The Reds managed to take them and fortify them enough to make the Blues piss themselves every time they try to retake those areas, or even mention those areas, because basically the Reds have taken back their capital, and now they're back better than ever. But at this point, the war has gone on too long. The Reds have started to push back Blue forces, but they didn't manage to gain a lot of enemy casualties against their low casualties, so yeah. But at this point, the war for the Blues is lost in the north, as their forces are just driven out of every single spot they go to, and basically it is decided to surrender, that the Blues should surrender over to the Cyans, who have literally recruited everyone they can from all over the world to help them get their independence. And would you know it, a lot of people actually joined, and they managed to get 2 more divisions out of foreign and native fighters of Uganda. Eventually, we do see the northern part of Uganda fall, and this just manages to break the camel's back, and Uganda falls. Firstly, we see that Uganda leaves this war with a lot of land lost for them, and also we're about to see what the peace deal looks like, so hopefully it will be good. Hopefully it will be at least somewhat better than it was before. So yeah, but as the borders are being remade, it is decided to be discussed about what Uganda should now do, as they have lost the war. They have basically lost most of the land, if not all of it, that they really didn't want to lose. And basically, now Uganda has gained its independence. While this, the red team, well, southern Uganda, manages to get itself a lot of new lands. Well, not a lot of new lands, they just managed to hold on to what they had before. So yeah. We also see a small thing happening here in this part of the world, which is basically that this nation decides to finally and fully annex this part of the Republic of the Congo or something. I don't know. No, not. But this causes a lot of hate between these two guys, and we see the Congos people go to war with non-Congo people. So yeah. But basically, the first signs of war were basically that the Reds pushed a few occupying troops over into this nation. Well, the blue team, the red team pushed troops into the blue team, eventually starting to retake a lot of its old land, and the blues were like, you know what, we're gonna try and make sure these places don't expand too much, so send the troops in. And immediately Uganda declared war, with casus belli being that this land was unlawfully and unrighteously occupied and annexed by the Republic, by the blues. And the blue team is like, no, we definitely and for sure have this land under our name. So yeah. And soon enough it was seen that the war was not worth it for the blue team, who at this point didn't really like each other. And by each other I mean the blue team had gotten its ally into the whole thing, so yay, allies. They are such pains in the buttocks. But basically, their allies were like, bro, you just need to give up that land, it's not that serious. And basically these guys were like that they should have done that at the start, because eventually the Congons declared that they wouldn't take peace anymore, as they see no attempt to reconcile the claims or anything by the blue team, just a general lack of communication just sparked that theory into life. So yeah, no peace, which immediately makes this nation go full on bonkers and become a third party state, because it didn't like this nation, the blue team, anymore. And yeah, basically they the green team didn't like the blue team anymore, so they sent their troops in. They did land a few dozen troops over here, but they got stopped. So yeah, that was right before, right after the green team managed to take a lot of land over here and create a blob. For the red team, basically the blue team decided to retreat back to its defensive line, which immediately was breached, and basically the red team started to advance so fast that the blue team couldn't make a defensive line to counter the movement of the reds. So yeah, and due to this and a loss of many divisions, the green team managed to link up with the red team and basically destroy the blue team, who now has fully given up on its surrender. We do see that these guys just, well, by these guys I mean the reds and the greens, decide to hear the blues out, and the blues actually give a pretty tempting offer to, well, the both of the nations of Congo and whatever this is, and basically that is redrawn and made in this. Yep. The Congo gains all of this, which is a lot of land and like 3 times what they actually got. No, 2.5 times more than they got actually had before. And now we go over to another part of this world, and this is Costa Rica and Panama. Now, Costa Rica and Panama, they have been friends for a while, but after a few disagreements and stuff, we see Panama tell Costa Rica, yo, we ain't chill with you anymore. So yeah, we're going to war. And to be honest with you all, Costa Rica did not want war. It did not want war. So it was like, okay, I'll give you time to prepare, but just please make sure you do not regret this afterwards. And also, if you guys are asking what happened to Panama for them to be like this small, ask the United States, because the United States decided to take the Panama Canal. So yep. First we have Panama troops push into Costa Rica, which are immediately repelled, and basically the pushback is so severe that Panama cannot really react in time for the defense of what's left of the areas near the Panama Canal. The Panama Canal has been made irrelevant. Costa Rica and the USA made another canal going right through this part. This was to allow for better things like more trade through Costa Rica, and to allow US ships to more effectively and more safely move through the waters of the for the Pacific and the. Is this the Mexican part of? I don't know. But back to the war, we see that Costa Rica does put a lot of effort in trying to maintain its promise to the USA that it won't go and kill a lot of, well, civilians or have any war crimes been done. Spoiler alert, the war crimes did appear, but not as much. But eventually we do see the fall of Panama. So yeah, and by the fall of Panama I mean the fall of Panama, as these guys haven't actually recovered from their little battle with the USA. So yeah, and Panama is actually fully annexed in this peace treaty, and eventually it's integrated as well. So we have seen a lot of things happen, and I think it's time to end it here. But thank you guys for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe if you have made it this far. See you tomorrow, as I'm quite nervous now. But yeah, bye guys. See you tomorrow.